Hey, spiritual extremists, it's Dr. Lloyd-Moffett again, inside the box. And I'm here to talk about the fourth motivation that you might want to flee, that would lead you to want to flee the world. And that is that the world might be perceived as evil or illusionary. Um, so here's the notion. Just like sometimes tradition saw the body as evil and sometimes other they just saw it as a distraction, there are some elements within traditions that see the world itself as evil. We see this in certain forms of Christianity, for example, that take the Christian worldview and the notion that the world was fallen because of Adam and Eve, and they really absolutize it so that the world itself is evil. You see this in like First John. We know that we are of God and that the whole world lies in the power of the evil one. Or John 12:31. Now judgment is upon this world. Now the rule of this world will be cast out. Or Luke, and the devil said to him, I will give you all this domain and its glory, for it has been handed over to me, and I give it to whomever I wish. Now, this is a claim in the temptation, but there is this sense that maybe the devil has control over the world. Or Romans, do not conform any longer to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of the mind. So what you see in all these different Christian variations is texts that support the notion that the world itself is in the hands of the devil. Thus, to flee the world would be to flee the arena in which the devil controls the world. So you might want to then escape the world because by nature, the world could be seen as evil. You also get a similar notion of here through in Hinduism with the idea of Maya. Um, in 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 Hinduism, Maya is this idea that it's not necessarily evil but illusionary and constructed. That is, humans always construct reality based on sense perception, and thus the world ultimately is not as it is perceived. In fact, there is a tradition within Hinduism, a common story, where they say the world is like when you go into a house and nearby you think you see a snake and you begin to be fearful, you begin to sweat, you begin to worry. But as you get closer to it, you come to realize that the thing you thought was a snake was actually just a coiled rope. Well, that's how the world is for us. We have misperceptions about the world. It's not false or lacking reality. It's not absolutely false, I should say, like a square triangle or daughter of a virgin. But we have a misperception of how the world is. That snake is actually a rope, right? Now, it should be clear that when we live in Maya, the effects of that illusionary world are real to us. That is, I sweat if I think I see a snake that's actually a rope. I worry if I think I see, my partner doing something that I don't like or something. But in the end, those are ultimately illusionary. And if we want to live in reality, we should not trust the empirical world, and thus we need to separate from that. Maya covers up the world in which we see. So if we are attached to our perception of the world, then we will ultimately be disappointed because it is illusionary. I think this is the fourth and last motivation for fighting the world. And the solution is always to separate yourself from the world itself.